Imagine you are standing on the tarmac at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The year is 2000. It is just past midnight, and the air smells like jet fuel and possibility. Kenya Airways jet slides out of the darkness and touches down with a sound like controlled thunder. It has just come from London, and before that, passengers connected from New York, from Toronto, from Amsterdam. They chose this airline not because they had to, but because they wanted to. At the turn of the millennium, Kenya Airways was one of the fastest growing airlines on the entire continent of Africa. It had a world-class partner in KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, a government that believed in it, and a continent that needed it. Carried a nickname that said everything about what it meant to the people of Kenya, the pride of Africa. Now imagine you are standing on that same tarmac. The year is 2023. Kenya Airways has just posted another catastrophic loss. The national debt it carries has crossed 100 billion Kenyan shillings. Staff have gone months without full pay. Routes that once connected Africa to the world have been quietly cancelled. And the Kenyan government, the same government that once called this airline a source of national pride, is now trying to decide whether to save it, sell it, or let it quietly die. How does a national icon, an airline that was supposed to announce Kenya to the world, end up broken, and begging? This is that story. To understand what Kenya Airways became, you first have to understand what came before it. In 1977, the East African Community, a political union between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, collapsed, and when it collapsed, it took the regional airline down with it. East African Airways, the carrier that had connected all three nations, was shut down almost overnight. Thousands of employees lost their jobs, planes sat idle on runways, and Kenya, a country that had staked its future on being the commercial gateway to East Africa, suddenly had no national airline. Not a struggling airline, not a broken airline, no airline. The Kenyan government moved fast. On February 4, 1977, just days after East African Airways stopped flying, Kenya Airways took its first flight. It was a bold, almost desperate act of national will. Kenya would not be grounded. Kenya would fly. The early years were not glamorous. The government owned the airline and ran it like a department, which meant bloated staff, political interference, and a balance sheet that never quite made sense. By the early 1990s, Kenya Airways was technically insolvent, losing money every year and surviving on bailouts, becoming a symbol not of pride but of everything wrong with state-owned enterprise in Africa. Then in 1995, everything changed. The government made a decision that seemed unthinkable. They privatized the national airline. They found a partner willing to bet on it. KLM saw potential where others saw failure. They brought in management expertise, training, discipline, and systems the airline had never had before. And for the first time, Kenya Airways started to make money. Between 1996 and 2007, it transformed. New routes opened, the fleet expanded, and in 1996 the airline went public on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with shares selling out instantly. Kenyans didn't just buy stock, they bought belief. By 2007, Kenya Airways was African Airline of the Year, flying across the continent and building Nairobi into a true aviation hub. Everything was going up, the routes, the revenue, the reputation, and that is exactly when the decision that would eventually destroy it was made. In 2007, Kenya Airways launched Project Moingu, a plan to become a global airline. It aimed to carry millions of passengers, operate over 100 aircraft, and compete with the biggest airlines in the world. To make that vision real, they ordered the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, one of the most advanced aircraft ever built. Each cost around $200 million, and they ordered 9. On top of that, they expanded fleets, built infrastructure, and trained staff. The logic seemed simple: more planes, more routes, more passengers, more revenue. On paper, it made sense. In reality, it was a trap, because what the spreadsheets didn't account for was the world changing. In 2013 and 2014, security crises hit the region. Travel advisories were issued. Tourists stopped coming. Business travelers rerouted through other hubs. Kenya Airways had taken on massive debt to carry passengers who were no longer arriving. And a plane that isn't full doesn't just fail to make money, it burns money. Every flight became a loss. Billions disappeared year after year, and by 2015 the losses had reached staggering levels. The board panicked. KLM reduced its involvement. The government kept injecting money just to keep the airline alive. Between 2017 and 2022, leadership changed repeatedly, but nothing could fix a problem this deep. Then came 2020. If the earlier crisis was a wound, COVID-19 was a bullet. International flights stopped. Revenue collapsed to zero, but costs kept coming. Loans, leases, salaries, all still due. By the end of that year, Kenya Airways had lost over 36 billion shillings, and total debt crossed 100 billion. The government faced a brutal choice: let it collapse or keep funding it. They chose to take it back fully under state control, and while this was happening, Ethiopian Airlines was doing the opposite, growing, expanding, and becoming one of the most successful airlines in the world. Same continent, same industry, different decisions. Kenya didn't lose because of geography. Nairobi sits in one of the most strategic aviation locations in the world. The opportunity was there, but opportunity alone isn't enough, because what the spreadsheets didn't account for was the world changing. In